Well, hello, NBA fans. Big J coming to you from Plainfield, Illinois. Here to talk about what? My opinion. Just my opinion. I'm going to talk about the NBA playoffs and whatever else comes on my mind. But we had some exciting games last night. I want to talk a little bit about those. See what you guys think. We had, I think it was the Hawks playing Miami. Pelicans were playing Phoenix, and the Memphis Grizzlies against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think those are the three games, last night. They're all pretty good. Start off with the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. Score ended up being the Heat actually closed out the Hawks 97-94. I guess I was kind of surprised because I thought that with Jimmy Butler being out, apparently he had some issues with his knee or something. I was surprised to learn that he was out. But anyway, when I found out that he was going to be out of the lineup, and plus Kyle Lowry was also out, that maybe the Hawks actually had a chance. But I guess it didn't work out that way. But, we really learned some things from this series. If we look at the summary of that game, first quarter, Atlanta 22, Miami 21. Then Miami kind of blew them out in the second quarter. Atlanta actually won the third quarter, and then Atlanta actually won the fourth quarter. Atlanta actually won the first quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. But they lost the second quarter by 13 points. But what have we learned? DeAndre Hunter had 35 points. He really upped his game. Where has he been? I don't know. But the real story of the game is what? Trae Young. Poor Trae Young. Only scored 11 points. I think his shooting percentage, he was like 2 for 12. Zero from 5 from 3-point. Now, I'm really not really surprised at Trae Young's performance. I always thought he was a little bit overrated. Just watching his game, to me, did not show a lot of skill. He'd run around, dribble, throw the ball up. To me, his jump shot is not really even a jump shot. It's more or less like a shot put. And but the fact that he's so short, he really had trouble getting his shots off or getting open. Or if they double team him, he was pretty much a done deal. He couldn't see over people in order to even pass out of double team. So he was really exposed. Now, what it made me wonder though is why was he so successful in the past? Excuse me, because Why was he successful in the past? Well, maybe that people weren't really focusing on him. And plus, that's one of the differences, with the regular season and the playoffs, where teams can focus in on their opponent and really devise schemes to stop them, make adjustments and that sort of thing. So I'm sure they figured out a way to curtail Trae Young, and basically Trae Young was exposed. I think from here on out, he's going to have a difficult time because all people have to do is, crowd him, make him work. To me, he's not skilled enough to figure out how to maneuver around those kinds of tactics and to dribble his way out or to create open shots for himself. Every shot he would take would be contested. And so he's just not skilled enough to be able to get open shots. So I think you might see really a decline in his career overall, which is kind of interesting because last year they're really touting him, almost trying to raise him to superstar level, with the series he had against the Knicks, and people really ranting and raving, but seems like it was all a mirage. Now, on the other side, Miami, you had Adebayo 20, Victor Oladipo, the 23, the leading scorer. Now, I was really happy. I'm really happy for Victor Oladipo. For his injury, he was really an uppercomer. He was turned into a spectacular go-to guy. I remember that series between Indiana and the Cavaliers, against LeBron, and Victor was the man. Come through in the clutch, to get to the rim, to shoot from distance. And then he got that serious injury. But anyway, to see him perform, last night the way he did, I was really happy to see that. But it looks like Miami is going to be tough. They're going to be tough. Tyler Hero, 16. I don't know if they've announced the sixth man of the year, but I think he's up for that particular award. I wouldn't be surprised if, if he won it. But anyway, that series is over. I don't think anybody expected the Hawks to win that, but I think we thought it'd be a little closer. So who else play? Okay, Memphis and the Timberwolves. Now this was an epic game, a good game. Went down to the very last shot. I think it was Ja Morant who scored on the last shot. The score was tied 109. And well, first of all, Memphis was actually up 3 with a few seconds to go, maybe 89 seconds to go. And I remember listening to the commentators, and they were saying, whatever they do, don't let them get off a 3-point shot. Lo and behold, what happens? That's exactly what happened. Memphis allowed Minnesota to get off last minute shot by Anthony Edwards, who hit a 3-point to tie it up at 109. And at that point, I thought Memphis blew it. And that it was because if they had went into overtime, Minnesota seemed like they had the momentum, and they probably would have won the game. But one thing about these players, and I know Charles Barkley had said about Minnesota, they were one of the dumbest teams he'd ever seen. And I think some of these players really do not think through, some of these plays. Now, the last play, after they tied it up 109, Anthony Edwards is guarding Ja Morant, and he goes for a steal. I think it's only a couple of 2 seconds left, but he goes for a steal and misses, and that's what allowed Ja to drive and get to the basket. Why would he have went for a steal? All he had to do was get in the way, contests. He didn't need to steal the ball. They always had a tie game sewed up. But this is where you talk about basketball IQ. So Minnesota really lost that opportunity. So now you have a case where Memphis is now leading that series 3-2. So that could have cost Minnesota the series. But these teams seem to be pretty evenly matched. I think Ja Morant getting all rant and raves. He had this one spectacular dunk. But I still think that, to me, he makes some reckless decisions in terms of his attempts to get to the basket at all costs. Sometimes you have to know when you can get to the basket or when you shouldn't even try. And many times he's forcing his way into the basket and ends up getting a turnover or something like that. So, but he had a good game, 30 points, 9 assists. Minnesota shot 44%. No, 40. Yeah, 44% from the field. Got 42% from threes. Minnesota shot 41% from, and then 25%. So they missed a lot of threes. Minnesota did. So assists, rebounds, Minnesota actually out-rebounded them 53-42. So that's the way that goes, I guess. And then we have last game of the night was Pelicans playing against the Suns. Now, I thought the Pelicans had a chance to, take advantage of it because, Devin Booker is still out, and Chris Paul is, you know, 36 years old. That little guard, what's his name, Alvarado, pounding him from full court, kind of wore him out. And but Chris did, come through. He scored, I think, 22 points last night. So he came back from his 4-point game, which is good to see. But the guy that really saved him was Mikal Bridges. He was all over the place. Shot all very well, 12 for 17. Only missed 5 shots. 4 for 4 from 3-point. So that's the guy. Let me see, what did Jay Crowder do? Jay Crowder only had 9 points. Ayton had 19. So Cameron Payne really helped him. Had 12 points off the bench in 11 minutes. So I think Phoenix is now leading the series 3-2, so they'll probably wrap that up. But I was surprised. I thought that New Orleans had a chance to really have that series or to actually go ahead. But I guess it's not really in the cards for them. So Suns actually beat them about 15 points, 112 to 97. Series lead 3-2. So that series is probably over. So NBA playoffs continue. And here we got the Knights. We only have 2 games today. Coming up, you got the Bulls and the Bucks. I just heard where I think the Bulls, Zach LaVine is not going to be able to play. Neither is Caruso. So that's going to be a done deal. So, we thought after that one victory that the Bulls had that maybe there was a chance or hope for them to at least make it a series, but Bucks are up 3-1. This is going to be a done deal. I'm kind of surprised. We'll see what happens in the next round, but still not sold on the Bucks. Still not sold on them. But if I think about who could beat them, well, Chicago, Boston, Miami. I think that it's going to be tough. Boston defense, they'll figure out a way to shut down Giannis. Giannis has improved his game, but you saw the way they were able to handle Kevin Durant. And I know Giannis is more dominating, on the inside, but I still think they would have it easier because they can stop him from the inside, and Giannis is still not really much of an outside threat. He's better in terms of, shooting jump shots and stuff, but nowhere near the level of, Durant. And I think they can find a way to keep him out of the lane, and somebody else will have to beat him because Giannis is not going to beat you from the outside. So, but anyway, the series with the Bulls is a done deal. It'll be over tonight. So finally, we have the Warriors and the Nuggets. Golden State actually is up in that series 3-1. The Nuggets came through in the last game and beat them. So, well, the other thing too, they said the Nuggets are used to playing from behind. They've been down 3-1. Matter of fact, I think it was a couple of years, maybe it's the bubble year where Denver actually came back from two series where they were down 3-1. So they probably have a lot of confidence in that area, but I think the Warriors are still going to be a little too tough for them. The Warriors are probably mad that they lost that last game, so they're going to come out extra motivated, so I think that series is probably going to end tonight also. I don't know if they're playing in where they're playing. They may be playing in Denver. They played the first two, Golden State, and 3-4 in Denver. So game 5, they should go back to go. So they're probably playing in Golden State. So, so I think that's going to be a wrap. So that's my take on the NBA playoffs. Did want to spend a little bit of time on my continuing series of what I like to call NBA nonsense. NBA nonsense. And what I've called NBA nonsense is things that I think, in terms of discussions around various narratives and terminology that's used around the NBA, I consider to be nonsense because it's kind of silly. I've talked about, things like killer instinct or this so-called fear of players and the myth of the super team. All these things I consider to be nonsense. And usually something always comes up for me to add to my list of nonsensical ideas. It's usually related to some discussion. I'll listen to these talk shows, the TNT Inside the NBA, with the Barkley and Kenny Smith, Ernie, and Shaq. And, they used to all come up with discussions, of course, Stephen A., Skip Bayless, all these guys have these discussions and they talk this NBA language. And so I hear something that, on these shows, it makes me think about, that's nonsense. So the latest piece of nonsense that I heard recently was on the TNT Inside the NBA, and Charles Barkley, and apparently it got into kind of Twitter or feud with Kevin Durant, and Durant responded, and what the issue was Barkley was referring to this concept of bus driver or bus rider. And his implication was that unless you're a bus driver, your championships really don't really mean that much. If you were just along for the ride, you shouldn't get any credit for, being a champion. And to me, that's kind of a nonsensical. And what does it mean to be a bus driver? If you look at Kevin Durant, and of course, the way Kevin Durant responded was he sent a photo of Barkley when Barkley had joined the Houston Rockets, playing with Scottie Pippen and Elijah Wan, and forget who else he was playing with. But anyway, Kevin Durant had posted that picture. Of course, Barkley's arguing always when people refer to him joining, other stars, he always tries to make a distinction that, he was old and they were past their prime. So then they're excusing joining so-called super teams because they were older. So it's okay to do it when you're older, but when you're younger, then it's a no-no. That's, to me, kind of a silly double standard. Anyway, so you look at Kevin Durant, bus driver or bus rider. Now, when he went to the Warriors, they won 2 championships. And in both those championship series, Kevin Durant was the finals MVP. So how does that mean that he was a bus rider? Because he went to a team that already won a championship, but the team he went to actually lost, the year before. But he was the MVP, and if he had not been on that team, they probably would have not have won. So can you say that he was a bus rider? Now, he was playing with, 3 All-Stars. Actually 3 potential Hall of Fame players. But still, he was the main cog on that team that allowed them to win, and why he ended up being the MVP. Now, one of the strangest concepts around that whole discussion, I was listening to Manuel Acho, who's on with Marcus Wiley. I forget the name of their show, but the way he tried to explain this whole concept of bus driver versus bus rider, that Kevin Durant could not win a championship without Steph Curry. So before Steph Curry, he didn't win, and then after Steph Curry didn't win. But he said that Steph Curry had won a championship without Durant. So I guess in his mind, he's thinking that that's what determines whether you're a bus driver or you're a bus rider. And he actually totally discarded the idea that Kevin Durant was actually the MVP in those championship wins. But in his eyes, even though he was the MVP, it was not that big a deal. And he referred to the fact that, well, Andre Iguodala won MVP too, so MVP is not that big of a deal. So I guess in his mind and his analogy, he's thinking that Steph Curry was the bus driver and Kevin Durant is the bus rider. Now, that's why I'm calling that nonsense. You can be a bus driver on one team and a bus rider on another team. But you can't say that you are always going to be one or the other. So since Kevin Durant was the MVP on that team, I think that does negate the idea that Curry was the bus driver. Durant was just piggyback riding on his coattails. So you think about it, Curry has never even won the MVP any of the finals that he's played in. So to me, that's part of the whole nonsense. Bus driver or bus rider. Key players make key plays. And, for example, you look at some of the championships that have been won, they've actually been won players that made key shots in the last moments. Steve Kerr with the Bulls, John Paxson, you had Robert Horry. Robert Horry had 7 championship teams. And you could say, oh, he's a role player. And, so he's not given credit for having won 7 championships because he wasn't the main guy. But the interesting thing is the fact that even though he wasn't the main guy, they wouldn't have won the championship without him. He's hitting those key shots. A couple of shots he would hit, they would not have won the championship unless he had made those shots. So, that's another one of the basketball nonsense issues. In my view, is this whole idea of role players. Everybody has a role. Some people's role is to rebound, some people's role is to score the points, but it's still a role. So the problem I have with using the term role players is because they use it to diminish certain players. oh, he's just a role player. And I always look at the fact, you look at the Kobe Bryant when he's always credited with 5 championships, but you could say 3 of those championships, oh, he was a role player. Shaq won MVP all 3 times, their first 3 championships. So does that mean those don't count? Maybe Kobe should only be credited with 2 championships. That's why that's so much nonsense, this whole idea. Bus driver, bus rider. I keep adding to my list of, the other thing I'm going to add to the list of NBA nonsense is this idea of whose team is it? Whose team is it? What difference does that make whose team it is? That's nonsense. I'll tell you whose team it is. The one who pays the bills, that's whose team it is. But we have locked into NBA jargon that a team has to have a player who is supposedly owner of the team. It is so ridiculous. And this whole bus driver thing, it's nonsense. When LeBron went to Miami, supposedly it was D Wade's team. But who was the best player? Matter of fact, they said Wade had to go to LeBron and say that, you need to lead us and we need to follow you. So that's kind of what happened. But NBA nonsense. So that's my take for today. Just my opinion. Call it a day. See you next time. Out.